Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Sports Reports as Ordered. As always, I am your co-host, Mike Wilson, aka 25, and I want to give a shout out to Brussels, San Jose, and Columbus for holding us down. I got Raphael Rutley here with me. You can find me on Twitter at 2-Bit Reports. Find me on Instagram at MLDub25. Find us collectively. Sports Reports is Ordered. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube. What's happening, Mr. Raff?
What's going on? Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Fear My Wrath. That's Fear My Wrath at Fear My Wrath on Twitter.com. I want to give a shout out to Dirty Geek Apparel, my man Javaris Ray out of Mississippi, hooking it up. So you can follow him on Instagram. You can follow him on Facebook as well. Dirty Geek Apparel. It's spelled just the way it sounds. Dirty Geek Apparel. Ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. So shout out. Just want to make sure you always reach out to your people. It costs you nothing to support your friends. It costs you nothing to be positive. It costs you nothing to spread joy. So that's what I'm trying to do today. And Mike, this is a joyous conversation that we have. It's just combative and intellectually combative. It's thought provoking. We just really want people to get a gist of how we really operate. Just two vets, no gimmicks. So let's get into it. Mike, you want to start us off?
Yes. And remember, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, we are wherever you get your podcasts. So today we got some topics for you. We're going to take it back to the past. We're going to do something a little different. So we're going to start off with Kyrie Irving to Dallas because that happened right after we signed off the other day. I missed it. Soon as we logged off, it happened. And, I felt like crap afterwards, but we're going to talk about it today. So then we're going to transition that into a trade deadline discussion that's coming up in 2 days, more like a day and a half. So Thursday is coming up. Then we're going to talk about why does no one value being the Pippen? Because last time I checked, Scottie Pippen, one of my favorite players ever, is a 6-time champion as well. 2 3-peats, all that good stuff. And then we're going to hit you with a little something different and try to solve the issue of why is hockey not so popular in the United States? Why is it not catching on? Why is it not as big as the NFL or the NBA? So starting it off, Raph, Mr. Kyrie Irving, up there near you, left Brooklyn and is down in my neck of the woods in Dallas. What's going on?
It's funny because like you just mentioned, we had just signed off. We were having our post podcast recap where we go over what we liked, what we didn't like, what we should hit next time. We just do this like we do a pre-conversation, we do a post-conversation. Like I said, we have this conversation in the middle. And during that conversation that we had, you said, what about Dallas? And I was like, that ain't gonna work. And then we just glossed over. We just kept going. We kept talking about it. And then when it ended, I was like, okay. And we were sitting there talking, and it popped up. It was like, yo, Kyrie got traded to Dallas. And I was like, what? I like the trade as box office entertainment. I wanted something to happen this trade deadline because a lot of trade deadlines in multiple sports they go, and maybe there's a move to be made, but a lot of moves are moves with players who should have been traded a couple of seasons prior to the trade deadline. So it's not like it doesn't really move the needle. And you factor in this is Super Bowl week, but the NBA basically that one trade. Me and you haven't even talked about the Super Bowl yet. We've talked on the phone. We haven't talked in depth about the Super Bowl, considering like our first 6, 7 episodes, we were talking about football all the time. But when this trade happens and the trade deadline came up, Kyrie going to Dallas, he doesn't have a guarantee. Like they don't have a guarantee from him after this summer. It could be a Kawhi situation, but Toronto was like, listen, we were cool with it because you got us a chip. I think they've been basically average ever since he's left. But you come here, you get us a championship, we're likely to oblige you on your way out. I don't know if Luka and Kyrie get you a ring, considering you have to play on both ends of the floor. And it's like, how much energy can they expend offensively? And then what do they do is the two of them on the floor, like what do they do for you defensively, considering that their primary focus is scoring? You got Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith. Those guys could have an offshoot night. Say they started the first quarter off and both of them go 0 for 4. Well, for the next 3 quarters, you can have them on the floor and they can just simply focus on defense. There's no expectation for them to drive the offense. So they're like, you know what? I'm going to just go back. I'm going to play tough defense with my guy. You get a strip, you get a steal, you get some points, you get some runouts, you get stuff like that happening for you. I don't know if Kyrie and Luka, either one of them, can operate that way because they have to expect the two of them to get you 54 to 62 points a game, like just between the two of them. Not the points that they accumulate with assists and everything else, but just scoring the basketball. I'm going to get 27 from Kyrie, and I'm going to get 29 or 30 at least from Luka. Like, I got to get 57 to 62 points out of you two. So I don't know what they can do defensively. So I'm not sure if it works as far as them playing late in the May and the June. But I can tell you that my boys stationed down at Dyess Air Force Base, they're probably going to pay a little bit more for Dallas Mavs tickets if they want to go to a game between now and the end of the season. But other than that, I'm not sure like exactly how much it really moves the needle.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'm probably going to be taking that 4-hour drive, just to throw that out there, go see me some box office, because all I got is the Spurs over here. And as much as I love Keldon Johnson, that ain't working, but I'm confused. So initially when this went down, I was like, oh man, fireworks. These guys are going to light it up. They're going to take turns, hey, this is your quarter, this is my quarter. And then I read today that Tim Hardaway Jr. is on the market. And I said, whoa, like I would have thought that having those two together with the shooter out there makes the most sense, So I was just thinking to myself, what are they trying to get back in return? But anyway, we'll get back to that later. So I was looking at Dorian Finney-Smith, and he was like the one dude on the roster that was playing defense this year, because Christian Wood ain't it, and me, and me being the guy that got to look up the numbers, before this trade, Dallas was number 24 in the league, 30 teams now. They were number 24 in defensive rating, and that was with Dorian Finney-Smith. And the reason that I remember Dorian Finney-Smith is because last year against the Suns, he was the one that stepped up in Game 6 against Booker and kind of eliminated him out of the picture. So, during that run, he held Donovan Mitchell to 33% shooting in a 6-game series. So letting that guy go does nothing for the other side of the ball. So I thought to myself, where does Dallas sit right now? Just first guess, Kyrie Irving comes to town. Where does Dallas sit? And when I thought about it, I said, I don't see why this team can't make the Western Conference Finals. But it's not because of them. It's because of everybody else. Because I look at Denver as the 1 seed. Like, I'm not scared of Denver. Like, I don't like altitude, but I'm not scared of them. I look at Sacramento as the 3 seed. I look at Memphis right now, who maybe if you bring Shannon Sharp to your arena, they can't even focus. Yeah, Golden State. Like, I mean, can Steph Curry play more than a month? Like what's going on? Like, I mean, granted, this was a freak injury that he has going on right now. But as I'm just looking at the landscape, if I'm Dallas, who am I supposed to think that I cannot beat? But then the reality sets in. And I say, okay, maybe I could see them winning a playoff series before getting pantsed in the second round.
Yeah.
But of course, the trade deadline is coming up in 2 days, so we'll talk about it more next week to try to figure out after all the moves get done if there's anything that changed our minds, or at least changed my mind from that standpoint. Now,
you don't know you don't see why Dallas can't make the Western Conference Finals?
Just going off of the rest of the West, not necessarily looking at Dallas as a whole.
So if we looked at matchups, this is a hypothetical situation. So if the playoffs started today, I love that hypothetical. If the playoffs started today, you'd have a 4-5 matchup of the Clippers versus the Mavericks. Is there enough muscle on Dallas to allow their two finesse players to go through unscathed, or are they? I mean, I don't know if Kawhi can guard Kyrie.
He can't.
He probably can't. But can you put Kawhi on Luka, Paul on Kyrie, and then conversely have each one of them like have Luka guard Kawhi?
Okay.
And just attrition, just like, all right, we're both 6'9", 6'8". I think Luka's he runs like 6'8", 6'9". Kyrie's the undersized one. Can we just basically just make you work? Aside from you got Zubac in the middle, you got Morris. You bring Kennard off the bench. He's just an energy guy. You just run him at Luka. Maybe Luka shoots 12 shots while guys on him. Maybe hits 4 or 5. But if he has a guy on that's a mismatch, maybe he shoots the other guys out of rhythm. Luka puts up 28 shots. Kyrie puts up 26. And then you have a guy like Hardaway, if he's still on the team, he gets 10. You get a guy like Woods, maybe get some lobs. So I think it might be just matchup. If they go down to 6, you got them with the Kings. I give you a shot there because I'm not sure the Kings defensively.
Well, their defense is actually 23rd. Dallas is 24th. They're 23rd. But to answer your question, I go back and I think about it. And Luka owns the Clippers in the playoffs. He doesn't always have the team to get by him, but just individually, he usually owns the Clippers.
Because he shoots 30 shots.
But that's what I was about to say. But that's without having another threat on the court to take some of that pressure off of him. Because Kyrie can hit enough shots to, in a scenario, in a game, in like 2 or 3 games, I would say at least, like he can free him up.
Heard this story about Kobe when he talked about they would double the guy who was up for a contract extension and then let the guy who signed the extension shoot all the shots.
Yeah.
It was like a tactic him and Phil used. They were like, listen, we're going to just double this guy who hasn't gotten paid yet and then watch them beef on the bench in between breaks because the guy who already got paid is getting all the shots. Mm-hmm. So do you let Luka be Luka? And then you put your biggest wing defender on Kyrie and make it difficult
I would honestly
can't get him the ball. And the Kyrie's like, yo, just give me the ball. I can beat this guy with the dribble. But Luka's like, listen, I'm in the paint. I got Kennard on me. I'm going to put up 12 shots on Kennard. And he was like, well, you got Paul George and Kawhi switching on you. He was
I was going to say, I would rather have Paul George guarding him. I would rather have that if I was the Clippers. But, even without Hardaway, they still have Reggie Bullock. I think Jason Kidd is a good enough coach that he can scheme some things. Tyronn Lue's a good coach as well. So I would be interested in the coaching matchup. And I think the coaching matchup may decide the series in some ways that the players may not, and then the Clippers, I just don't trust the Clippers. Like, I just don't. Like, they get leads. They get, you saw what happened. You saw what happened in Orlando when they went up 3-1 on the Nuggets. And that was Paul George and Kawhi Leonard younger.
Yeah, but they didn't really want to be there.
Get out of my league then. If you don't want to win the title, get out of here.
Don't go down there. Like, don't fly all the way down to Florida.
Yeah. But I think it'll be a good series. I think the Clippers obviously should probably be the favorite going into the series. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Dallas win that series. I think Dallas beats Sacramento, if they were to match up there. If Dallas were to climb up to 3 or have some luck and get up to 2 and play a Portland or somebody like that. Like, I don't fear that series.
Yeah, they can get to 3. Well, that's weird because they've played 55 games, and the Kings have played 53. Kings are 30-23. Mavericks are 29-26. So pretty sure it'll
about 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 games depends on how that math works out. So it's pretty difficult. I think what the NBA and the executives have kind of forgotten is that there's a formula to like building a championship team, and they're using the old one. They're using the one that LeBron, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, they're using that formula where you get a couple of stars. Well, I think Boston might have done it differently because like their stars are a little bit spread out. But if you look at if you go with the Miami model, the posted decision, you get 2 stars, you get a dynamic third star, i.e. Chris Bosh, who can defend and shoot the 3, that stretch 4 player. And that worked. It was working at OKC when they met in the finals. But ultimately, the team format, unless you can overwhelm them by putting Kevin Durant on a Golden State, if you're not getting Kevin Durant to Denver, or a guy like if AD somehow ended up in Denver, like that overloading your team with talent on the front end and it translating to championships makes sense. AD going to Milwaukee in some bizarre trade or something like that. But really it's a good, one of your best players embodies your identity, i.e. Phoenix with Chris Paul in those couple of years when they had their good runs, when they made the finals run a couple of years ago, and then the long player front last year. You get a guy that kind of embodies what the coach expects, and then you get a couple of young stars and then good role players. Like that's how you build it. That's what the Celtics are. The Celtics were basically just good young role players, and then Tatum and Brown just kind of ascended. Mm-hmm. But you had Marcus Smart, Horford as a good old school role player, Derek White coming off the bench. You had Robert Williams in the middle. You had Grant Williams, the undersized power forward.
He's on the trading block.
So you had those pieces, and it made sense. I think with these trades, you're not getting that. You're not trading like whatever they got for Gobert, whatever Utah got for Gobert. It was like 5 players and 4 picks, like that. Excuse me. You can get that, and then you have a guy like a Devin Booker or De'Aaron Fox or LaMelo Ball, like one of these young stars, and you can get a bunch of role players. Then you can just overwhelm your opponent with good defensive strategy, moving the basketball. Basketball is a simple game. If you have space, shoot the shot. If your defender crowds you, dribble drive, try to get to the hoop. If another defender comes over, kick it to the open guy. Like, if you just simply follow that philosophy for your entire basketball game, for every player that touches the ball, you could probably score 100, 110 points because it's a simple philosophy. Like, everyone knows, like, this is what we're going to do. Each shoot the open jumper, drive for the layup, drive and kick. If you have enough role players, that can work. But if you have a star who feels like he can beat anybody off the dribble, and then you have another star who feels like I can beat anybody off the dribble, and then you have 3 or 4, 5 guys coming on rotation who are waiting for one of these 2 guys to beat someone off the dribble, and they're standing in the corner, it won't work, a la Porzingis. It seems like it will work, but it won't.
Well, since we're talking about Kyrie, did Joe Tsai prevent LeBron from winning another championship?
Listen, man, Joe Tsai has no ill intention towards LeBron because it doesn't benefit him whatsoever. He's a businessman. I'm a businessman. I'm a businessman, and maybe he's a little upset with Kyrie. So why would I send him to Phoenix where he can have success? People can be petty. No matter how much money you make, you can be petty. Kyrie didn't have the leverage of the cachet, or even like he mentioned it. He didn't have the mutual respect. He felt like they didn't respect him, and that in turn made him feel a certain way. He's like, he felt like I was being tolerated in Brooklyn. So him requesting the trade, it was a matter of like, you know what? Fine. Let's just go ahead and cut our losses, send him wherever we can send him so we can still benefit as a team.
Never mind the whole championship clause or whatever that was. Like,
like people who leak that, like Colin Cowherd says this a lot. He was like, imagine the information you heard that got leaked. Now think, which camp is in the best interest for that information to come out? If it's something against the player, it's probably the team. If it's something against the team, it's probably the player. Because when you hear this leak stuff without it being really validated, he was like, take it with a grain of salt.
And see, and the other thing that I was thinking about is for the LeBron fans and the Laker fans out there that have issues with the Nets right now. I was thinking about somebody like Aaron Rodgers, crossing sports for a second. I was thinking about somebody like Aaron Rodgers who has played in Green Bay, for the last, 15 years or so.
It's like president felt like.
But I'm just saying, he won a Super Bowl. He's won MVPs within the last 2 seasons or whatever the case may be. Aaron Rodgers is the face of the Packers. When you think Packers, you think Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers went to, I always mess up the guy's name. Yeah, Gutekunst. I always mess up his name. But if he went to Brian Gutekunst and said, "Hey, I would really, really like to go play for the Jets or whatever the case may be," as long as Aaron Rodgers don't walk in his office and say, "I want to play for the Dallas Cowboys" or somebody else in the NFC that you're going to run into.
Play for Minnesota because that's Brett Favre.
Yeah, they might help him get there. If
the AFC East, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, like Tom Brady, like even with Tom Brady having all the issues that he had towards the end of his tenure in New England, if he went to Mr. Kraft, as Stephen A. calls him, if he went to Mr. Kraft and said, "Hey Bob, I really, really would love to go to Tampa Bay," Bob's like, "Hey man, you brought us 6 championships. I'm not going to get screwed.
He's like,
but I'll try to do."
Survive off of what you did for me. Yeah.
Right. But I'll try to do what I can. For Kyrie Irving, and I'm pro Kyrie, by the way. But the point being is that if he goes to Joe Tsai and says, "Hey, Joe, like I asked for the trade, like it's best for both parties. I would really love to go to the Lakers if it could work out." If I was Joe Tsai, I would say, "Get the F out of my office. And I never want to see you again."
If you're in Kyrie's camp, you can say, "Hey, without me, KD doesn't come here. So I get it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm leaving you with KD. You can get a haul from me, from the Lakers, whatever Lakers." And that's the problem. The Lakers didn't see the forest through the trees and didn't keep any assets going forward. They traded every single available asset to get Anthony Davis because they had the system, i.e.
Right.
LeBron on there. They knew, like, man, if we just move heaven and earth to get, but I don't think they realized that LeBron was going to play 5 full years. And they were like, we don't have anything left. So if I'm just aside, I'm not making a deal with LA. Aside whatever I want to do for Kyrie, it just wasn't enough. And I know they didn't get much from Dallas. Honestly, if you think about it, short of KD not wanting to play with Russ, there's no way that the Brooklyn LA deal was going to happen.
Unless, so it just depends on what you believe. It depends on what you believe. Because from what I read, the Lakers only offered one of the picks, which changes the whole dynamic of the deal. When you look at Dallas, gave them the first round pick and a couple of other, granted they were second round picks, but they gave them some other picks.
2030.
I know.
It's February 2023.
I know.
So if you're looking at it like
and the Lakers offered them the 2029, not the 2027.
Yeah, so it's not like it was like, yo, why don't NBA teams not have any picks the following years? Every team that's making a trade, all their picks are like 7 years away, but that's neither here nor there. NFL teams, they always have a pick for the next year. I guess because they only have 7 rounds.
Except for the Rams, you know what I mean? They don't have that first round pick.
David, just do it. But with the Kyrie trade, I would have taken maybe a better deal, unless the speed at which the deal was done.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows me that it was people who were fed up. Like you ever see the meme? I remember seeing it was a meme. It was 2 pictures. One picture, it was a dude's basketball shoes thrown all over the yard. And then it was another picture. It was like they were stacked up neatly outside the apartment door. And the guy was like, "Listen, man, If she stacks your shoes up neatly outside of your apartment, she's done. There's no emotion. You not coming back like, listen, you know what? This is done. We go ahead and move all this stuff out here and move along. I think when they got the conversation, they got the deals, if they got 3 or 4, they were like, listen, which one right now works for us? And do we have any other plans on the table? Like, listen, okay, we'll take the Dallas deal and then we'll package this guy with this guy, and then we'll reach out to Washington and see if we can get this guy. We'll reach out to Utah, see if we can get this guy. Because Brooklyn has to be making another deal. Either they're going on a full rebuild mode and they're going to package Kevin Durant, which I think is all just rumor because the one deal happened. So I think any person, because you can use a source. Your source can be the dude that just brings in the tape to the training room.
Mm-hmm.
You say, hey, I thought I heard someone say something like, hey, I think Kevin really likes Boston. Kevin can really like Boston. The conversation would be Kevin like, yo, likes Boston because he likes to eat at Smith and Walensky's when he goes.
That man likes some chowder.
So all the equipment guy heard was like, I heard Kevin really likes Boston. So he goes to he's a source for some writer and says, hey man, I heard Kevin really likes Boston. And then they could put out a story because all you really need is someone that says, hey, I got this from an inside source. Literally, it could be the person who just drives the Zamboni for the hockey team that has nothing to do with basketball. It just happens to be in the building.
Well, allegedly, Miami and Phoenix are on the table. But if I'm Boston, first of all,
that was Kevin Durant's original thing. So like, unless Brooklyn's like, listen, we trying to make more moves, then I think they just took this deal just to get Kyrie out of town.
Well, Boston, if Durant does move, it better not be Boston. I know that much. Just from the standpoint of y'all just made the finals last year. You know, y'all got the team already. Y'all don't need to break anything up to bring in an old injured dude.
I think there's going to give him Jaylen Brown.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't give him Jaylen Brown for KD?
Hey, if I was Brad Stevens and you walked in my office and told me to get old ass broke down Kevin Durant, I got to give up Jaylen Brown, I would tell you to get the F out of my office.
I'd be like, hey man, let's sit down, let's get some coffee and let's talk this out.
No, we ain't talking nothing out. You know what I mean? Like, I got these young dudes that, you know, I'm going to have through their prime or whatever the case may be. Like, this is happening. Like, Kevin Durant can take his old ass to Phoenix because that's where old people go anywhere. Anyway.
Because the playoffs, 4 rounds, you need 28 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Can you rest Kevin Durant from now until April?
Technically you need 16, but yeah, go ahead.
16, yeah. Okay, I was thinking 16 wins. That's even better. So, 16 wins. You rest Kevin Durant from now. You get him into chemistry the last 8-10 games of the season. And you go into the playoffs and you say, hey, man, win us 16 games for this, 18th championship for the Boston Celtics?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? If Jason Tatum showed up in the finals last year, we're not even having this conversation.
Sunday. You're making that move because you're not.
I'm not making it.
I think Brooklyn is more desperate because they poorly managed their whole process. I saw a clip from Jeff Bezos the other day. Granted, this is before he was like $100 billion Jeff Bezos. He was like, you're stressed because you didn't do what you knew you were capable of doing beforehand, and that's bothering you because it's going to impact you going forward. That's why you're so stressed out. He's like, if you'd have taken care of what you had to take care of the first time, you wouldn't be stressed about it going forward. I think Brooklyn mismanaged KD, Kyrie when they first got there because they should have looked at it like this. They should have looked at it the same way the 2020 Lakers looked at it when you had LeBron, AD. You had 2 top 10, 15, whatever that number is, but 2 top players on your team. Let's surround them with maybe one other star that can get his own bucket or a guy that's automatic from 3, one of those guys, a 45% 3-point shooter. And then role players that fill in roles where KD and Kyrie don't have to do. So instead of having KD be your best rim defender, go get a guy to defend the rim and make that his sole responsibility. Go get a 3-and-D guy. Go get an actual point guard.
Well, that's what they did. They've done that.
Come off the bench. But they traded so much away. They could have kept Karis LeVert.
Oh, my bad. You're talking about in the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
the original, when they originally got the two, they got big-eyed because James Harden showed up to camp in Houston chubby and unhappy. And they figured Houston would just take, a bill of goods and send James their way. Well, Houston, then they had to get Cleveland involved. When you got to get that many elements involved, it's like, keep what you have and go from there. And I think that's where they originally messed up, and they've been playing catch up ever since. There's no reason to trade for Ben Simmons when he hadn't played all year. He was mentally not prepared. They said he was physically not prepared. And the last time he was on the court, he was getting booed. And then when they got eliminated, his coach basically said, I don't know if I can win with them because he must have known something. And then B came out flat out and said, like, listen, this dude is no good. Like, he's not a good basketball player.
And he still ain't no good.
They said it's no trade market.
No trade value. Thanks for taking my next point off my paper, by the way. But yeah, no trade value.
We hear. That's what we just hear. Like we
no trade.
This is something that our conversation just flowed.
Yeah. So what I was actually going to say was, I know who will be in Brooklyn. Ben Simmons. That's what I was going to say. But I mean, Cam Thomas has been a revelation. He scored over 80 points in his last 2 games. And before we turned on the camera and everything, he was already at like 12 points in the first quarter. So, that's your Kyrie guy. I don't know.
Out of nowhere, like the guy Anthony Simmons in Portland.
Yeah.
Like these guys, give him a shot. SGA.
Mm-hmm. Hey, yeah, my Kentucky Wildcat. But here's a question that I wanted to ask you. Is it time for Memphis to think about trading Dillon Brooks? Or is he just so into their culture that they have to keep him?
Nah, you keep him. Keep him because it's too many teams in the league for you to think that a singular trade is going to then elevate you over the 14 other teams in your conference, let alone the 29 other teams in the league. You keep it together and you make it work. Like,
well, I just know that they lost 8 out of their last 9, and teams tend to panic.
Take a vacation. Like this All-Star break, you got the All-Star break coming up. Shout out to Salt Lake City. I'll be out there hollering me. Take an outing.
And look,
coaches, go to some. I think the Appalachian Mountains run through Tennessee, at least the eastern part. I'm not sure how far. Go up there, get a cabin. All the players get a nice little cabin or whatever, and just like sit down, have your kumbaya moment, and really build. I think it takes more than just putting talent in a room. Every NFL team, like I tell this people all the time, and almost every NBA team, if you line them up and you look at the size, speed, jumping ability, percentages that they shoot the basketball, percentage that they complete passes, tackling percentage, if you line them all up, there's going to be a few outliers. There's going to be Aaron Donald. There's going to be a Patrick Mahomes here. It's going to be A.J. Brown. It's going to be a Derrick Henry. It's going to be like these guys are the outliers. But for the most part, 90%, 95% of your league is going to be these guys who are like in this fringe, and every team going to have their select number of them. You got to put that team together and make it work. I think so often people think these trades are going to work. I'm like, so you mean to tell me you're just going to get a guy in who hasn't been there since last summer when these guys were hanging out? Some people got married last summer. Some of these guys on the team were at those weddings. Some guys had bachelor parties. Some people had baby showers. Some people, went to their parents' 70th birthday party. Like some of these guys went to college. So these guys have relationships that are bigger than the team thinks we need this guy in to, lead us to a championship. I think it's just tough to just throw someone in that mix and expect to win.
So what happened? What did happen with Jay Crowder in Phoenix? Like, I was just minding my business, and then out of the blue, it was like, hey, they're trying to trade him. He ain't playing. Like Milwaukee's thinking about it. They're not going to do it, so on and so forth. Brooklyn might bring them in. Brooklyn might not. What's going on with
Ego.
Jay Crowder?
Ego, man. It's ego. It's the same thing that happened with John Wall. You get a guy in, you don't want him to get hurt because you want to trade him, but you don't want to cut him because then you got to pay him. So you just sit him. You just literally just waste someone's time and have someone waste their career. Just like, it's not something that would be acceptable in any other industry in the world. But it's like, well, I don't want you to hurt yourself because you lose value for me. So I'm just gonna sit you here. The same thing that happened to Al Horford. That's how he ended up in Boston. It's just like, we want to trade you. For some reason, you don't fit into our 9-man rotation, so we're gonna trade you.
You know what's funny is if Denver, Colorado was located in Los Angeles, California, we would hear all the tea about Jamal Murray and Bones Highland sneak dissing each other on Twitter. But we ain't heard nothing. So I'm pretty sure Bones Highland is going to be out of there at this trade deadline. I don't know how I feel about that because I like the kid. He hasn't been playing that great this season. I feel like there's some other things at play. And apparently, he got his homeboys on Twitter calling Jamal Murray female genitalia, so like there's a lot going on in Denver apparently, but speaking of Utah, since you brought up Utah,
I'm listening.
I've heard that there's a possibility that Mike Conley or Jordan Clarkson end up with the Lakers.
That's because
everybody's going to the Lakers because I heard Fred VanVleet too.
Rob Pelinka hasn't made a reasonable trade that added value to the team. He got rid of Kendrick Nunn and he got, your boy we talked about, Hachimura.
Yeah.
But it's like, everyone looked at that deal like, how'd that happen?
And anything the Lakers do now, it matters because they may have to pay him because, he's a free agent at the end of the season. So if they want to keep him, that's going to take more away, and they're already in the luxury tax.
I want people to go to the Lakers, and I was watching First Things First earlier.
Yeah.
And Kevin Wild just said, I got a wild suggestion. How about you just win more basketball games?
Hello?
It says something like the Lakers are between like the 6th and 9th in the NBA in scoring or somewhere in that range.
They're
like
6th, yep. And that's without shooters.
No 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
Not good 3-point shooters. Play tough defense.
Literally.
And win games.
Hey, you remember what I said about Dallas a few minutes ago? If Anthony Davis could stay healthy, the Lakers should feel like they could make the Western Conference Finals.
But too bad they're like 13th right now in the West.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If Anthony Davis stays healthy, they're gonna beat Portland a few times. They're gonna beat somebody. Like, I'm looking at the West and I just don't see it. I see why Ja Morant wasn't worried about the West, but he got to win too. But as I'm looking at this, same thing with Atlanta. I feel like every day for the last 2 years, all I've heard is John Collins is on the move. And, we got to get rid of John Collins. But then, Bogey's on the move too. So, like, I don't know what Atlanta's trying to do because they brought in DeJounte Murray. Him and Trey have played a lot better together than I thought they would. But maybe John Collins just doesn't fit that.
You gotta. What else you gonna get?
I don't know.
400 guys in the NBA.
Hey, they'll get Jay Crowder.
It's 8 million people on Earth.
And I know
if you say only men can play in the NBA, cool. It's 400 men in the NBA. It's 4 billion men on Earth.
So the deal.
400 of the best basketball players collectively in the league right now.
Yeah.
If you move Collins to any other team, are you going to get a guy that's so much better than him when he is one of the best 400 people, and he's a starter, so he's one of the best 120 or 130, 150 people in that in the league? It's like, what else? What are you going to get? What are you going to get in return that you can't get out of him?
To borrow Max Kellerman's word, I think he's excellent. I just think that him and Trey don't mesh very well together for whatever reason.
Then that's why you got to get the big boys in the room, the adults, the captains, the coaches.
Look,
and like, we now moving you.
Like,
Play
dude,
ball, get this check, and let's see how we can fill these seats because everybody not winning championships.
See, and this is the part that, as a regular common dude, it's hard for me to understand because we've been in the military. We done worked in plenty of offices with people that we don't get along with, that like the sight of you makes me want to punch you in your face. But when the deadline is there, when the time is coming for us to get work done, you stay over there, I'm gonna stay over here. We talk to each other if we need help, whatever the case, we get
I'll
it
see
done.
you at turnover.
You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all got to find a way to work that out. You're adults. You know what I mean? You're not 12-year-olds that we got to deal with all this side stuff. Like, you should be able to have a conversation, figure that out. I mean, this has been going on for 2 years. Just trade the dude to get off the pot. You know, one or the other.
It's like, and that's the part is like, I did an assignment this past weekend in my leadership development class about motivation, what motivates people. We always talk. I brought this up I brought up our podcast. I put it in there, put a little blurb in our podcast. I even put the name in the discussion post. But what I said was that everyone who doesn't make the money that these NBA players or these professional athletes make always say, man, for $100 million over 5 years, I can be happy anywhere. For $100,000 a game that some of these guys are getting, I can be happy anywhere. It's like, money is not the ultimate motivator. I understand that. But if you just think that just getting rid of a guy is going to solve your problems, where do these problems come from? What's the root cause? Why is it that you have a room full of adult men managing this team, and then you have men playing the team, and they're playing a game, and they can't be happy? These are adult men who get to play a game for a living. Granted, it's tough. It's tough on you physically. I'm pretty sure it's tough on you mentally. I'm pretty sure not being away from your family, moving around, all of that stuff is tough. But at the end of the day, they're playing a game. So how is it that you as a coach, you can't get your team to rally around a simple idea that can galvanize them and move them forward when other teams are doing it successfully? Milwaukee's doing it successfully.
And they just made the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago.
Boston's doing it successfully, even though their head coach behind the scenes was having problems that people have known about even into last season. So how is it that you have to reevaluate what is your focus? What's your mission statement? What's your galvanizing point for these players? Everybody wants to just trade these players and write them off, and then the media makes it seem like it's all these guys' fault. It's like, listen, if you're running $1 billion business and you can't keep a single player happy, or you can't make a marketable, proper decision on how to build your team, or you going out here reaching to the point where you got pundits on TV making this face, then, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
If you're Nathaniel Hackett, you don't know that on 4th and 5, kicking a 64-yard field goal doesn't make more sense than just going for it on 4th and 5 with your 3 timeouts. And if you don't get it, you can stop with the 3 timeouts, get the ball back. I mean, if you can't master upon that while you're playing the game, then it's not all this other stuff that's going on. It's you. You are incapable of doing the job that you think you signed yourself up for. So move along.
Well, you know, I love Trey Young, but Bubba Chuck, he is not. You know, so like, you know, since you brought up Nathaniel Hackett, as you seem to do, you know, I guess this is my time to shout out and let Easy Money Sniper know we ain't got no beef with him. But speaking of Easy Money Sniper, you know, I heard through the grapevine that, you know, you were talking about Brooklyn and getting a 3-and-D guy at the beginning of the tenure, you know, of Kyrie and KD. Word on the street is they might be trying to get OG Anunoby, you know, which I think would be a great pickup for them and would reopen discussions of how they match up with Boston. You know, I don't think he puts him. What's that?
What does Toronto give him up?
They're trying to have a fire sale, from what I can tell. You know, like, because Siakam's on the trade block, like I mentioned earlier. Van Vliet is apparently Laker bound too. You know, so Greg Trent Jr.'s name is out there.
If you have to get rid of your core players, then you got to get rid of the staff of people who put that team together.
Well, you know, it's one of those things, right? So going back to the Atlanta Hawks for a second, you know, one of the things that I learned, or a phrase that I learned a few years ago, was treadmill team. You know, like they were the definition of a treadmill team. They weren't going to win the title, but they were too good to not make the playoffs. So they were just in that purgatory. You're never going to get the high draft pick, whatever the case may be, blah, blah, blah. That's where Toronto is right now. Toronto's that team. And Chicago is that team right now, where they have, let me say it right this time, DeFrozen. They have him, you know, but from what I was reading earlier, it looks like they might stand pat. You know, they might not move anybody. I don't think they should move anybody. I think if they're going to move somebody, it should be the head coach. I mean, that's just me. Send that dude back to college because he was great there. Down here in San Antonio, apparently the Spurs started out wanting 2 first-round draft picks for Jakub Pertl, Utah. They wanted 2 first-round draft picks for him. I don't know who
That
can
won't
give that up.
happen.
Nobody's going to give that up. And just to circle back, because I didn't give you the full trade. So the full trade, allegedly, is Mike Conley, Jarrett Vanderbilt, and Malik Beasley for Russell Westbrook and one of those picks. So
Utah do that.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they just want to pick. They just want Danny Ainge wants picks.
You have a nationally televised podcast.
Yo, if Danny,
I'm the GM of Utah. I'm signing the checks in Utah. I'm me and Dwayne Wade. We're on the ownership table. You're the GM. You come in and you explain to me why getting Russell Westbrook from LA to our team does anything for us.
I would tell you to get the F out of my office, but but
everyone wants LA to have it all. If you're not listen, Laker fans, if they're not trading Anthony Davis, nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening.
That's your trade bait. Unless you're gonna sign over the rights to the stadium and some of that money or Anthony Davis.
Well,
you got nothing else.
Speaking of beginnings, the Lakers should have just got Buddy Hield in the first place, but that's just me. What do I know? And the last thing I wanted to bring up, unless you have some other things on this topic, the last thing I wanted to bring up was, so apparently Kyle, not Mike Lowry, is on the move, and the Clippers may be
LeBron.
And the Clippers might be, so not the Lakers, but the Clippers may be involved there because
he's LeBron's age.
There's rumors that they're going to buy out John Wall.
That. He's LeBron's age. These dudes are old.
There's rumors that they're going to buy out John Wall, who is also old, but not that old, I guess. But
John Wall's all on podcasts all summer long talking about how blah, blah, blah. He should have gone to the Lakers because the Lakers are more desperate than the Clippers. He made the decision to go to the Clippers thinking they were going to win more. They're not going to win more. He should have just gone to the Lakers. If you want to go to LA, he should have gone to the Lakers and whatever little meaningless contract he got after the buyout from Houston.
Well, I just want John Wall to know. I just want John Wall to know. I agree with you, John. It is your city. This is not Black Brad's city. I just want you to know that. DC is his city. Yes, DC is his city.
On trade proposal. Once again, every trade proposal, because I like Russell Westbrook. If I could envision like an exciting player and a player to watch that's always on, you got a guy like Ja Morant, but I think he just does it. They just do too much dancing and all this stuff. I'm a little too old for that. I like Russ with the old school, come through with the tomahawk. The problem is they devalued him so much, thinking because they were LA that they were going to make a deal happen and not realizing like, yo, you are so far behind the 8 ball in these deals. If you can only offer Russell Westbrook and some picks that are like a couple of presidential elections away, think about this. The 2027 first round pick is 13 right now. He's 13 years old today. So you want me to trade Kyrie? You want me to trade Bradley Beal? You want me to trade Zach LaVine? You want me to trade DeMar DeRozan? You want me to trade anybody for Russell Westbrook, who's coming off the bench, doesn't shoot free throws well. He's gone on every year. Doesn't shoot the 3 well. Doesn't seem to make game-ending clutch plays very well. Like he doesn't drive to the hoop and get the layup. Like he drives and like the ball just kind of goes askew. He doesn't seem to make the game-ending clutch moment plays. He seems to make more blunders in those moments. You want me to take him and a 13-year-old that might be good when he is 19 today, so I can send my $50 million a year shooting guard to LA so it can be AD, Bradley Beal, and LeBron James for the rest of the season? In what world would any GM sign up for that?
I don't know, but somebody please come rescue me and get this dude off my team. Somebody do it, please, please. I'm begging you, please. But anyway, before we put this bow on this, anything else you heard that through the grapevine?
Like all I read was the Jaylen Brown for KD, which I would do. I'd make that move. But that's a real asset. Jaylen Brown's a real asset. Russ Westbrook's not a real asset.
So do you have to?
One guy was in line to be Finals MVP last year if he put together 2 more good games, and the other guy has been on a trading block since what? Early, since probably about a year. Since probably the All-Star break last year, he's been on a trading block.
So if Boston doesn't win the title this year, is this something that we're going to have to revisit with Jaylen Brown feeling a certain way with his name out there like that?
Depends on how big the check is that they write his name on.
I wish that Scottie Pippen would have waited around and got a bigger check than what he ended up with. Because when I was watching The Last Dance, I don't know why he signed that contract. He must have really needed that money. Scottie, come on, man. I love you, man. You're one of my favorite players. And I just want to know, why doesn't anybody want to be Scottie Pippen? So I get why everybody wants to be Mike. He had the commercial. Sometimes I dream that I could be. I get it. You know what I mean? But why don't nobody want to be Scottie? He had cool shoes with the big ass letters.
Doesn't make any sense. To me, anyone who saw that whole Bulls dynasty, the championships, the acclaim, Jordan, the highlights, the Last Dance, Phil Jackson with the gray hair, all of that stuff. If you saw that, and then you're Tracy McGrady, you're on team with your cousin Vince Carter, and the reason you want out is because you want to be Pippen to his Jordan. And then people say, oh, yeah, you want to be your own man and run your own team. Was Pippen not his own man? Did he not just own man and dunk all over Patrick Ewing and then push him into the camera? Was he not out there shutting it down? Was he not out there playing with a migraine? Did he not win 6 championships? And then when Mike went to go play baseball, he still won 50-something, 58 games, 56, 57 games.
Yeah, they won 57 the last year of Jordan, won 55 the year that Jordan left.
Yeah. So, yeah, I understand, because even on my source that I'm using here, Basketball Reference, he has 4 nicknames underneath his name: Pip, Scott, Batman, Robin.
Scott.
I don't know. I've never heard anyone call him any of those names.
I've heard Pip.
Pip. That's the only one I heard. Scott, Batman, Robin. I heard Robin being used as a derogatory term, like, oh, no one wants to be Robin and Batman. I'm like, yo, they both in the comic book. They both have costumes. They both have a role. I get that. If you feel like you're better than the other guy, and then the other guy's getting treated more, getting paid more, and you're fighting for your you're fighting for your money. Because if you look at this current state of the people who won championships, Steph is your quote-unquote quintessential Batman. Klay Thompson would be his Robin or the Pippen, Jordan Pippen. I think Klay Thompson's deal is about $198 million or something like that. And that's not a bad Robin deal. And it works because it allows each player to excel for the benefit of the team. Klay Thompson defends the bigger guy. Steph Curry drives the other team's best defender crazy. So Either you put the best defender on Clay, because if Clay gets hot, then Steph is going to keep feeding him, or you put your best defender on Steph in the hope that he doesn't tire out. But then Clay is Golden State's best on-ball defender of a wing player. You got Draymond down low. At least this was during their heyday when they were making that.
And through all that, they still call him Game 6 Clay.
Scored 37 points in one quarter. He scored 60 points on 13 dribbles. Go to YouTube. There is a video of Klay Thompson. I think he scored 60 points, and he dribbled the ball 13 times.
Yeah, it was something like he had the ball for like less than a minute, or like right at a minute, or something like that.
60 points.
60 points.
Dwayne Wade won a ring. LeBron James then goes down to Miami. They won a couple of more. Was Dwayne Wade Robin to Batman, or the Pippen to LeBron's Jordan? Or were they down there going to 4 straight NBA finals, winning 2, on top of the finals MVP he already had with Shaq as his second best player, or when Kobe was the second best player to Shaq? Like, this notion that being the second best player to a guy who's having an outstanding season or series or even career is asinine to me. So being second to LeBron in all those years when they were going to the finals 8 years in a row is a negative thing. LeBron trying to take a back seat to AD, does that diminish what LeBron can do, what he's capable of? No, it doesn't make any sense. And I think sometimes, I don't know if it's your camp that gets you like that. I don't know if it's the agents. I don't know if it's the media. But realistically, if every team, I think they have enough cap space to sign like 2 max players off the rip. I think they could finagle it and get a third. But I think every team can pretty much pay 2 guys $50 and $40 million a year and then still fill the team. There's nothing wrong with being the $40 million a year guy. I don't know where the negative connotation comes from.
Well,
different. Maybe you had different conversations.
I admit, I prefer Nightwing to Robin, but that's just me, But when I think about Robin, I think about a dude that from time to time gets into a little trouble, needs to be rescued. He has a cool sword that he breaks out every now and again. You know what I mean? But I hear these things about Jordan. Even myself in our last episode, I talked about the, aura and the magic and the mythicalness of Michael Jordan. And you see what that word was, right? Mythical. Mythical is the word. Because I was watching Scottie Pippen as a 12-year-old. And I saw the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Bulls went down 0-2 to the Knicks. Right? So when you say that out loud and you think about it, you say to yourself, oh, I bet you Michael Jordan came out and dropped 40 the next game. He took that. No, he went 3 for 18. That's what he did. He went 3 for 18.
Got an anti-Jordan post.
Yeah, Scottie saved that game, first of all. Back, everybody says, what it is, 6-0, no game 7. Well, in 1992 against the Portland Trail Blazers, the reason why there was no game 7 is because the Bulls were down 15 with Jordan on the bench. And Scottie Pippen led the bench players. He was the only starter on the floor. Led them on a 14-2 run to get back into the game before the starters came back in. That ain't a Robin to me. Now, I think Scottie Pippen played the number 2 because of who Jordan was more so than he had to. I do think that obviously Scottie Pippen benefited from having Michael Jordan. I mean, who doesn't, right? I mean, Kyrie benefited from having LeBron, so on and so forth. It happens.
Curry benefited from it by being wide open on the pass because they doubled Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought of, who could be a modern-day Scottie Pippen, because Scottie wasn't necessarily a great shooter by any means or anything like that. He did make 12 all-defensive teams in his 17 seasons. So I tried to think of a moment or a series or something that would make me think of Scottie Pippen. And what I thought about, now everybody's going to retort and say, "But they lost that series." It doesn't diminish the point. It was the NBA Finals. But Jimmy Butler against the Lakers. That reminded me of a Scottie Pippen moment because he's not a Jordan by any means. He's probably more of a Pippen. He's probably stronger than Pippen, but he's a Pippen from the standpoint of defense.
He was a Jordan. He played the Jordan role, and
He had to, but he's a Pippen.
But there's no other option though. So
right, and that's why, and that's why it didn't work.
Yeah,
and that's why it didn't work. Yeah, that's why it didn't work because he had a young team first of all, but we saw him put up the 44 and damn near pass out. You know what I mean? But he still had to play defense. That's why he was going to pass out. The same way that in Game 2 in the 1991 Finals, they had to pull Jordan off of Magic. They said, "Scottie, go do that." They put Scottie on the alpha dog of the world champion, ran the 80s LA Lakers. Because Jordan, not that he couldn't do it, because Jordan, they played off and on, but they don't win that series without Pippen's moment and taking over that defense that changed Game 2 and kept them from going down 2-0.
Really, I don't think they went in. I don't think Jordan wins.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he wins. I don't think he wins all 6. I'm not sure if he gets to 6 without Scottie. And it's not a knock on Jordan. Like I said, it's just an energy thing. It's only so much one player can do, no matter how dynamic they are, for a sustained period of time. Like I said, we've all heard the stories and shooting 36 holes of golf, stuff like that. I just want to know if he could have battled through these series in the Eastern Conference.
I mean,
Knicks with with Orlando and Shaq with Penny and I just think that at some point the game where he could put up 25 shots and maybe drop 42 points, but does he have the energy to fight through the pick and roll when Penny Hardaway comes back up in the Eastern Conference Finals and Shaq is setting the screen? Does he have enough energy to get back and defend that?
Okay, so let me ask you this.
You have to be able to move. You have to be able to move some of those responsibilities to your entire team.
So let me ask you this. So with what you just said, does it have to be someone in the Pippen role, or does it just have to be another good to great player? So if I put say Sean Kemp with Jordan, or if I put I don't know, if I put David Robinson with Jordan, do they still win championships, or does it have to be in that Pippen mold for it to work?
I think the reason it worked with Pippen is because it was a transition to where your 2-guard, small forward, your 2 and 3 guys in the NBA were starting to get a little bit more. I'm trying to think of the word. It was when at first it was everything went to the big man. So then it started going through Jordan and guys like that. Dominique started, getting his little shine, and started getting guys like Penny, Vince, and then later on AI. So you started getting Kobe's. You started getting these shooting guards where teams were shooting guard centric. The reason that I think it worked for Jordan and having Pippen was because there wasn't another guy like Jordan, and he was the alpha in that regard because there was no one else like him. Anyone that was close that played them, Scottie can shut that guy down. So Scottie could guard Clyde Drexler. No one could guard Jordan. So Jordan could still be Jordan, and Pippen was preventing guys from even getting close. So that was allowing these comebacks. That was allowing some of these victories. And it was like I said, this is not I'm not trying to diminish Jordan. It's more of a highlight of the importance of having a dynamic second guy. You don't need a whole team of just guys. Like, remember when Portland had like a whole starting lineup of guys on the bench, had like Rod Strickland, Greg Anthony, Steve Smith. I think Rasheed Wallace was coming off the bench. Like, that's too many guys. That's too many guys to try to fill. There's only a few roles you need on an NBA team. You can have a couple of guys be your enforcers. You have a couple, two or three guys be your rebounders. You have your starting point guard. You have your point guard that comes off the bench that runs the offense, and you can have your starting scorer, and then maybe a guy in your second unit that can get a bucket. You don't need. I don't need four guys who think they're Jordan all on my team at the same time, because it's not enough ball for that. Scottie Pippen was proof. Like, you don't need a bunch of guys who play like Jordan to still win, but you need a guy like Scottie Pippen to shut down the other team's version of Jordan.
And that's why I would have
for the Bulls.
See, that's why I would have liked to see the T-Mac Vince combo that you brought up, and I would have loved to have seen T-Mac with Grant Hill, down in Orlando when that was going to be a thing, but Grant Hill couldn't walk, or whatever. But but I don't know, like, that's tough to think about, because like, I think of, because I know they had Horace Grant, for the first championship run. So I think that somebody like Ron Harper might have been still young enough. I don't know what the condition of his knees were by then, because I know he came on for the second three-peat and he was just washed up by then. But for that first three-peat, I think he might have still been okay enough to play the Pippen role.
Does he
maybe
come there?
I don't know. I'm just throwing out names. Since you took Pippen away, I gotta replace Pippen with somebody. So Ron Harper's a name that comes to mind. Or what if it's not a Pippen, but it's somebody like a Glenn Rice type that still plays the three, can shoot, not necessarily a defender, but maybe he relieves Jordan in some way.
They would have to be committed to defense in order for it to work. They would have to be committed to locking down the other team's best player and doing the other stuff. Because Jordan was your driving force. He was your energy. He was your scorer. He was your motivator. He was your agitator. Whatever adjective you want to bestow upon Jordan, he had all that. But he needed another guy to do that. Not needed in the sense that he would have been unsuccessful otherwise.
Right.
Like, a good quarterback needs a good offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have wide receivers, all these guys. But if you don't have a good offensive line, there's only so much the arm can do.
Well, that's why when you brought up the Clippers earlier, matching up with Dallas, that was interesting to me because, in that scenario, I would assume that Kawhi is the Jordan and Paul George is the Pippen in that scenario, Paul Pippen. But I think Kawhi is out so much that the line gets blurred and Paul George has to become the Jordan, more than he probably has to.
If you watch the way Kawhi plays basketball, he plays like the guy who wore 23 in Chicago.
Yeah, he plays like Jordan. Doc Rivers, I never thought about it until Doc Rivers said it a few years ago.
He might be a little bigger because of modern players are just a little bit bigger, but like his kind of build, solid up top, a lot of shoulders, uses his shoulders to create space. Paul George, just this unicorn of a defender at 6'9". Like, he can guard. He could probably, realistically, today's game, De'Aaron Fox is probably a little too quick, but I can see him guarding Donovan Mitchell one game and then be matched up with LeBron another game.
Yeah, he could match up with like a Mike Conley.
And they get Westbrook when Westbrook comes in off the bench, or Clarkson, or like DeJounte Murray out of Atlanta. I could see him guarding those. Maybe not Trae Young, the way, ironically, Ben Simmons could guard Trae Young, but for some reason he can't figure out how to be Pippen to KD and Kyrie's Batman. Like, that's the thing. If Pippen was playing like the way Ben Simmons is playing, it wouldn't have worked. But if Ben Simmons could play the way Pippen played for those 90s Bulls and that run, you could. So you mean somebody could put my 6'10" guy on your best offensive player? Keep in mind, how many guys on the wings were 6'8" in that time frame? So like, he was equally as an anomaly as Jordan. It's just that what made him different wasn't it wasn't a lot of highlight reels. Not a lot of highlight reels of playing good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just basically keeping your feet, arms, defending passes. It's not a highlight. Getting the strip highlight.
Well, and don't forget, as far as the Robin thing goes, not too many Robins finished third in MVP voting. And when Jordan did decide to go on his sabbatical, and go play a whole nother sport.
Man needed a break. He was carrying the league for like 5 years.
That's what they say.
Yeah. You and my pops, y'all both have a different story. I can't corroborate it, so I can't
corroborate it, but it makes sense to me. But Pippen did the LeBron thing, where he pretty much led the Bulls in just about every category that year. And if it wasn't for that one, I mean, I know we don't like to do the referee thing, but if it wasn't for that one ref in Game 6, the Bulls are playing a Game 7 with the chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And Scottie went to Portland. And, he may not have been the leading scorer, but he was absolutely the leader of that team, with Rasheed Wallace, Steve Smith, so on and so forth. These guys were, hate to do it again, a referee away from winning in the Staples Center and going to the NBA Finals in Game 7. So Scottie, I think over time proved his worth, beyond being the guy that's beside Michael Jordan. I think that players today, not saying that there needs to be a league full of Pippins, but I do think that there's qualities, mentalities that some of these guys can take that would make their teams better, or that would like if Jason
like Pippen, if you play like Pippen, you wouldn't lead the floor.
Or what about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? I feel like Jaylen Brown from time to time still tries to wrestle the team away from Tatum.
It's like it's tough because I think the Batman Robin comparison to Jordan Pippen moniker, for some reason people view it as like derogatory or has negative connotation to be Pippen to Jordan. I'm like, those guys won 6 championships. They brought Dennis Rodman in and won 3 more. Like, I mean, like they had 2 3-peats. I think the Lakers had 1 since, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in 2023. I mean, we could basically say the Warriors aren't going to win for the next 2 years. So whoever wins this
didn't even win back to back.
So like you had the Miami Heatles. They only won 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 2 that they lost on the bookends, it wasn't like they were close to the 3-peat. It wasn't like they lost 2 Game 7s. They lost a Game 6 the first time, and they lost in 5 the second time. So it was like it's not something that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Warriors, when they lost 2016 to LeBron and Kyrie, you can say, all right, Kyrie was a Pippen in that, and I think that might have been one of the, I can't speak for him, but I can imagine like that kind of thought process was like, I don't want to be second fiddle to LeBron. I was like, yo, y'all went to NBA Finals, you got injured, came back, beat Golden State, and then came back and they had added Kevin Durant, and you guys lost in 5. But the game you won, I think they were up like 80-45 at some point in that game. I mean, I was watching on TV on replay in Vegas. And then LeBron, then the following year, by Kyrie was already gone. But I think people in your camp, if people in your camp can really have this conversation, like, listen, man, people talk about Scottie Pippen, but he has 6 NBA championships, and he's highly regarded as one of the catalysts for Jordan's success. So it's not a matter of, people don't talk about Ron Harper that way. People don't talk about Horace Grant that way. People don't even talk about Phil Jackson that way. People say Phil Jackson just basically rode the coattails of these 4 stars, Kobe, Shaq, Jordan, Pippen.
If that were true, then Doug Collins and Del Harris would have championship rings as head coaches.
True indeed, but no one says, people say the conversation is Jordan didn't win without Pippen. Oh, and Phil. Like I heard someone say it on TV the other day, and I heard another conversation as well. It's like, oh, Jordan didn't win anything without Pippen or Phil, but Pippen is a primary piece. Kyrie, healthy, 2015, they beat Golden State. If they don't go to overtime, and he doesn't hurt his kneecap in that game, I think they beat them that year. I think they beat them again in 2016. And Kevin Durant doesn't go there in
Mm-hmm.
17 because like, man, y'all
And
lost, bro.
and never let people forget, because like Raph said, this is not taking anything away from Jordan.
Not at
We're just
all.
we're just dealing with absolute fact. So when people talk about Robin, I want you to reply that Robins don't turn you into a three-peat when your previous playoff record was 1-9 without Robin. That's what I want people to tell. Now that don't mean that, like I said earlier, if he had a Sean Kemp or somebody like that, that he doesn't win some playoff series or whatever the case may be. But what we do know to be fact is that he was 1-9 in the playoffs before that boy from Arkansas showed up. So all I want to tell NBA players today is that it is okay to be Scottie Pippen. Now, like for somebody, and that's where I think, I don't know, because in the NBA it's hard. Coaches don't have, I guess, the leniency or the leeway that NFL coaches have, because NFL coaches just tell you like, hey, you go sit down, you take the snaps, or whatever the case may be. So in the NBA, I'm sure like Tyronn Lue's not saying, hey, PG, you need to let Kawhi take that shot. Like I'm pretty sure that might happen after the fact, but it's not happening in the moment. So
Brought up because didn't David Blatt drop a play for Kyrie and then LeBron said, "Nah, I'm taking a shot against the Bulls."
yeah.
So you could draw it up. Um, Maybe that was part of the reason why Kyrie was like, "I gotta get up out of here." Um,
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Iverson with a Pippen, or like I don't know, like
he
you know.
had one.
Well, I mean, he had
Oh,
Aaron McKee, but I mean, like,
yeah, Carmelo didn't work out. It doesn't work out. So if you can get in a position where it can work out, that means it's not the fact that you're second fiddle to this star, i.e., Anthony Simmons or CJ McCollum and
I
Damian Lillard.
didn't mean second fiddle. I mean actual Pippen type player.
Oh, Pippen player.
Yeah, not
Well,
Carmelo, not
I'm going with
him.
the moniker. I'm going with the moniker of a star with another star.
We don't talk
If
about
you
people
play,
affiliated with Jim Boeheim on this show.
he got a championship with Carmelo. I'm just talking about the guys who were because a lot of people who were second fiddle to the star
hmm
immediately viewed themselves as the Pippen,
Right.
but under a negative umbrella. I'm like, well, yeah, you're second to a guy. People are going to be better than you. There's going to
And
be a person better. There's probably be a better person on your team. There's nothing saying that you can't be outstanding. Like I talk about this a lot. My son's youth football team, him and his friend Brent, both running backs, and we went to a game. And one of the coaches, a real cool coach, because you play in the same league for years. They recognize my son wore the same number every year. And in the parking lot, the coach saw us. He's like, "Oh, all we gotta do is stop him, and we gonna win this game today." I was like, "Yeah, we got you, 11." And he was talking trash, but it was fun. It was fun, just back and forth banter. Well, he didn't realize that number 28, Brentwood Lulac, was gonna go for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns because you got your whole defense looking at 11. So my son will go one way, that whole defense is shifting. Here comes Brent right up the gut, down the sideline, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. My son still got a touchdown. I think he might have run one or he threw one in. But so they got 5 touchdowns between the two of them. But one kid got 200 yards that game and 4 touchdowns. Well, at the end of the year, they handed out the awards. My son played defense. They both played defense. They both played offense. Well, Brent had more touchdowns on offense, so he's offensive MVP. My son got more strip sacks and tackles and everything on defense, so he got defensive MVP. So it's like, yeah, one guy may have better numbers than you on the same side of the ball, but you can still have a great impact. And that was it. It was like they basically were allowed, the way they played allowed other guys to play in certain positions. You didn't need a third and fourth kid to play running back because you had two kids that are dynamic there. And you
you
had
know
a
what?
kid tackling on one side, a kid tackling on the other side. So you can keep guys in their position. That's what it's all about. The guys want to shine and the awards at the end of the year versus this is my impact today. a whole game plan was by the team was to stop me and my friend goes for 200 yards and we won.
It's funny. I just thought about it because I brought up Jimmy Butler earlier, being a Pippen kind of guy. And then I just realized as we were going back through this, and I was like, well, he kind of became that guy in Miami because he had to, but he didn't want to be Derrick Rose's Pippen. So it just came full circle, like it's just a thing. Like nobody wants to be the Pippen. Just like I'm sure in hockey, everybody wants to be Ovechkin or Gretzky or whoever, but I wonder if we just besides Josh, and
Yeah,
if
we
we
got one down the group. Shout out to Josh.
shout out Josh Wagner, saying like shout out
Keeping
Gunny.
us up on what is it, the Minnesota Wild stats.
Yeah. So besides Josh Wagner, if I ask the rest of the people of Real Sports 365, how many of them could name more than 5 NHL players?
Man,
Like how
you
many
a
people in
lot.
your daily life? How many people in your daily life do you think could name more than 5 NHL players
In my daily life,
in your daily life?
I work I work at a flying squadron with a bunch of pilots. We understand the demographic that I'm working with. So I work with a bunch of air crew, used to work with them. So they can name off a lot of hockey players. They can't name a lot of basketball players. They can
I,
name they can name what they've been catered
I
to.
think
But
I
I got
think
a lot of hockey in my office that will be able to name more.
I think like 95% of the people that I come in contact with would tell me Sidney Crosby and that Ovechkin guy. That's what they would tell me.
Gretzky, they'll throw you a Gretzky. You got to get a
Yeah.
Gretzky.
Yeah,
Everyone,
they might throw a Gretzky. They might throw a Mark Messier every now and again.
Messier
You
is too many syllables. You get a Gretzky,
know.
Crosby, Ovechkin because it's Russian. Everybody just likes Russian names.
Yeah, so simple question. Why isn't hockey more popular?
It's short answer. It's not enough black athletes in it. That's just short answer. Which is just that's a lazy answer if that's all I was going to say about it. But ultimately, hockey is like a niche sport, similar to soccer, lacrosse, some of these other sports, where I think the stigma is you have to be this demographic or this socioeconomic status to participate. Really, it's just a matter of awareness of like how to participate.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn how to skate because you can learn how to skate young. Like like I said, I have 3 sons. I have 3 sons of a daughter. I don't think she's gonna skate. I think she's gonna start t-ball here in the summer, late spring, summer. But my oldest son and my youngest son both played hockey when we were stationed out in Utah because my coworkers all grew up playing hockey. A bunch of them were from Utah. A couple of guys were from the Northeast. Like one guy was from New Hampshire. He played hockey growing up. So it's where you live. It's just like your location geographically where you play, like where it's popular to play hockey because every place doesn't have an ice sheet. So they would play pond hockey because it would get so cold in New Hampshire. Like this weekend, it was like negative 104 Fahrenheit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bananas. I just when I seen the video, I was like, this got to be wrong. But
Yeah.
they'd play pond hockey. It was like a big deal. So if you had a town that was on near a body of water, it freezes over, they put the nets out there. It was like a whole thing. Same thing for my friends in Utah. So then the Olympics came to Utah in 2002, and they built more ice sheets to accommodate all the games. Well, once they realized the popularity after the Olympics were over, they built even more ice sheets, and then they built double ice sheets. So hockey just grew in popularity because of the location.
So that was Utah, you said, right?
That was Utah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, demographics is, I think Utah is something like 96% Caucasian and like 4% is like a combination of everybody else. The numbers might be different now, but I think that's pretty much the standard matter. The three and a half there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think initially people just feel like, oh, it costs too much. Yeah, it costs a lot to play hockey now because I think a lot of hockeys are more of a travel sport because it costs so much. They figure, well, you can only play quality teams because they're not everywhere. So when my son played when he was 9, so this is 2011, we played in Ogden, so we played the ice sheet that was at the university. We were a subsidiary of the university. We had the university colors. The coaches came out and helped. We used their ice sheet. They eventually got funding to build another ice sheet, like just another hockey rink. I keep saying ice sheet because that's how we talk in the hockey world. Like, so it's just a rink. So it's a rink on one side, and then it was like a hallway and a section lobby foyer area. Then there's another one on the other side. So these places were popping up all over Utah. So everywhere that built one, they would build two because if you booked a tournament, you can essentially double your teams because you had two sheets to put teams on and play games on. Or if you had them, if they were young enough, you put a little pad, so a pad across the middle. You can have two teams on one ice sheet and then a full game in the other one. So like it was a lot of logistically it just worked out. But what ended up happening was that if you don't have enough teams in your area, you have to travel. And that's where it gets pricey. Because the equipment you can get, even if you spent, right now, my youngest son's 14. He played when he was 3, 4, 5, 6 in that range. He played in that time frame. So from like preschool through kindergarten to first grade, he played hockey once or twice in like some smaller seasons and like a couple of full seasons. So he had a good run with his equipment that I bought him when he was 3 years old. Well, if your feet don't grow, you can keep those skates and you spend a few $100 on skates. So let's say $250, $300 on skates because you want them to fit comfortably. The shin guards, the pants, the shoulder pads, gloves, elbow pads, those can be regular. Get a good helmet. You want their feet to be good. You want their helmet to be good. Well, a lot of times with hockey parents, they'll tell you, oh, don't buy another one of those. We got one. He grew out of it last year. We'll just bring it to practice next time. So essentially, you just kind of connect yourself to like another hockey family, and you guys just exchange your stuff down, and then you give it to the ice sheet that you play at, and then they keep it in a closet, and they're like, oh, don't worry about that. We'll buy you another one. The real fees come in when it comes to travel, because if you're playing in an area that doesn't have a lot of, like Maryland, for instance, say you're in a hockey club in Maryland, there's probably not a bunch of people who want to play hockey. So you'll have one or two places where you can play hockey. Or if you want to play multiple games in the hockey season, you're going to have to play in Delaware, Virginia, different parts of Maryland, maybe Pennsylvania, Jersey. So you got to pay the travel fees. That's where it gets pricey. Right now, my son's on a travel lacrosse team. I think it's like $3,000 for the season. But if we want to go to this tournament down in Florida, we got to fly down to Florida. We got to pay an entry fee for the tournament, like separate than what we currently pay for travel. So I think that is where you kind of lose people because it's fun. Hockey's fun. Hockey's fun even 10 years old, but you lose people because as they get older, it gets even more expensive.
So the numbers that I found, is that the average cost of hockey for a child, didn't specify age, but just children, is $2,583 per year. And that's mostly broken up by $829 on average for the travel, and then $389 for the equipment. Those are the big chunks. And then you got all the extra stuff that you were talking about, entry fees, so on and so forth. But, I was thinking about it, from a professional standpoint, like the NHL, we got that going on, Alexander Ovechkin, my guy, but before I even go forward, shout out to the Tucson Road Runners, But, as I was looking at this, I tried to think about it from the standpoint of the other popular sports that we, football, baseball, basketball. And the first thing I thought about was recruiting. Like college football recruiting is big time. People follow that stuff like it's a religion. So they know these kids, they kind of grow up with them, if you will. Or the kids, I guess, they watch the kids grow up. So by the time they're at the university, they've been watching this player for 5 or 6 years. When you look at basketball, kind of the same thing. Baseball, college baseball is not necessarily the same in that way, but the College World Series is a big deal. We know it's in Omaha. We know a SEC team is probably going to win that too. We keep up with that. We know about that. I even had a college baseball video game at one time for the PS3. But when I look at hockey, yeah, but when I look at hockey, I don't know any of these college players, and it's sad because you got March Madness, you had the BCS. Hockey has the coolest name, the Frozen Four. That's the coolest. See what I did there? They have the coolest name, the
Fun.
Frozen Four. But all I know about the Frozen Four is that you could probably count on a Minnesota school, a Michigan school, maybe Boston College, maybe Notre Dame. These
Maybe
Midwestern.
North Dakota. You got North Dakota in there?
No, I didn't say North Dakota, but yep, like some kind of upper Midwest to like Boston, like that general area seems to rule the roost. Because I remember turning on ESPN and I've seen college lacrosse from time to time. I've seen college soccer, from time to time, just a few months ago, actually. So from that standpoint, we're not familiar with the players and how many of those players actually make it to the NHL, because the NHL usually when I see it, it's a real Canadian and it's real Russian. But the reason that I wanted to ask this question is because hockey has everything that Americans love. It's quick paced. There's violence, and I'm not even just talking about the fights, but you're just pinning people up against the glass. So I know for me, random black people that I've talked to over the years, a lot of them were turned off. They like the fighting, but when we see an NFL player or NBA player fight, there's that like subtle, they're a thug. What are they doing? Whereas these hockey players, baseball players are throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs at people, and then they get into a scrap, and everybody's like, check out the fight. But the NBA, it's like, what are these thugs doing? So there's just like that connotation.
NBA, you're losing a couple of games and a paycheck.
Yeah, so they're
in baseball. I think if you come off the bench in hockey, you can get suspended.
Yeah, but like most fights, you get like you go to the penalty box and then you're right back.
You get a 5-minute game misconduct penalty. I think it's
yeah.
I think they're crack down on it, but I think one of the reasons they didn't crack down on it because it is interwoven to the fabric of their popularity. That's
what people love. I took my wife to a Capitals game. We were in Baltimore visiting family. We went down to DC, went to a Capitals game. And, we were probably, 7 minutes left to go in the third period. And she turns and looks at me and she's like, we haven't seen one fight yet. And, and I'm like, woman, watch the damn hockey. Like, I was having fun. I was loving it. Like, because I can't skate to save my life.
Yo, hockey is the most exciting sporting event to watch live.
It is.
Any level.
Hockey and soccer live, like I don't know what it is. Like they just do it for me. But like I can't skate. So I actually, when I'm watching hockey, I marvel at these dudes. Like the fact that they're so accurate with the passes, that they get the shots on goal, because I would just be sliding up and down the floor, falling on my face if I was out there. So
they out there on skates with a helmet one year. I was like, man, I don't know how y'all do it. My feet hurt, my fingers hurt.
So I just want America. I want America to let me know how I can start voting in polls, because I always find these statistics and I ain't voting none of it. So what I was looking at, I looked at some demographics, age. So in the age group of 18 to 34, 17% of Americans consider themselves to be avid hockey fans. 17. It drops down to 13 when you go 35 to 44, which surprised me. I thought that would be like the highest one.
That you would think that'd be the highest one.
Yeah, and then it drops to 10% once you go 45 to 64 and then above 65 is 5%, they're sleeping. I get
Yeah.
that. But like it was just shocking to me because I see people wear, I mean, not very often, not as much as football jerseys, but I see people wear hockey jerseys. I got a few hockey jerseys in the closet. And when I go to hockey games, the arena's full. So like they have fans, but then I thought about it and I can't find it on TV anywhere. Like I guess like a lot of hockey games come on Versus.
The hockey, I remember watching. This is something that, if you think about this, their playoffs run concurrently, essentially, with the NBA playoffs. So the NBA first round game can start, we'll just throw arbitrary date, April 20th. And you have OKC versus Golden State in the first round. That game comes on at, say it comes on at 8:30 Eastern, right? That series ends, and then another series is going on at the same time, and one's a sweep, and then the team that they're going to play goes to 6 games. Well, the NBA will have it almost to where they wait until like the very last possible day to start the second round, so you don't have first round games going on the same time as the second round games. Hockey will just go and just kind of let it figure out, and that game will come on at 3:30 on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's like, yo, meet me in the conference finals.
Yeah, so it's like the game is on. Like, listen, this is when we got the sheet for. I don't know if it's a matter of stadium availability because of the NBA playoffs, or what they have to do to turn an arena from a basketball arena to a hockey rink, and the timing. They were like, listen, we just got to go. We don't have time to wait, because we can't wait until this date because they got this going on this date, whatever the case may be. But like hockey will
you
have,
still got concerts and stuff to worry about.
if you finish your first round matchup and the team that you played against finished their first round matchup, and you can meet this following Tuesday at 4:25, then that's when the game is going to be on. Whereas the NBA is like, they got to have prime time. Can you imagine the AFC Championship game came on? I mean, we'll go, if it came on 11:30 on Saturday and the other one came on 2:30 on Sunday, the NFL will be like, no. We need 3 o'clock and we need 6:30. So we have your whole day for multiple weeks in a row. The hockey doesn't they, I don't know if they care for that, but they don't have the same TV constraints where they just take over days out of the week. I think it's a matter of like, let's get hockey on the ice sheet.
Yeah, I remember seeing hockey playoff games recently on NBC, but
Network NBCSN or something like that.
Yep, NBCSN, yep, and then in Peacock now, I guess. But before that, they were hard to find, and like I said, regular season games. I just happen to have Sling TV, so I have Versus, so I can watch some hockey. I can keep up with Ovechkin chasing Wayne Gretzky, but outside of that, Sports Center, you might see hockey, on a top 10 play or something like that, but they're not just covering it.
I remember hosting, because I had coworkers that played hockey. I'm like, yo, come over to my house, and we'll watch. I believe it was Game 7, and this was in Utah. And I remember when the games, it was a Friday, when the game started, it was, the sun was still up in Utah. So I don't know if it was like maybe later, like, I mean, obviously it was 2 hours later on the East Coast, but I don't think it was that late. I don't think it was like 8:30. I think it might have been even with that, like 7:30. Because, like I said, when we sat down to watch the game, it was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and it was like on a Friday when people were getting off work. Imagine the Super Bowl was this Friday. Imagine getting off work, beating rush hour, getting home, sitting down, and the Super Bowl came on. But I think with hockey, they're just like, you know what? We're putting it on because we're putting on a show. We're not creating a narrative 4-hour show, whereas sometimes like the NBA, like they'll put, they have all day Christmas. They take all day, they play these 5 games for Christmas, and then I think they send a memo to the teams, like the load manage. I don't know if hockey load manages, I doubt it. But hockey is one of those sports where it's an ultimate team sport. People don't realize that because those lines you play, if there's 16 dudes on your bench, you're playing. Everyone's playing. It's not like the NBA where it's like 5 dudes right now could not have tennis shoes on and we wouldn't know because anyway, dudes probably don't have their shorts on underneath. Like none of these dudes got tape on their ankles. It's like, listen, I'm not getting in the game. Hockey, those dudes, it's a 60-minute game, 3 periods, 20 minutes each. I think most of the players, I think a top player averages like 21 minutes ice time because it's aggressive. Boom, 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 come off the ice. Boom, 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 come off the ice. Not a lot of timeouts, not a lot of stoppages.
I love they just jump off in the middle of the like they
just jump right in the tag, nothing. Just like, yo, green line, go. You know,
yeah.
I think if they catered the excitement piece to more people, aside from the fighting and the hitting, just the flow of the game, it's essentially a basketball game on ice.
Mm-hmm. And
like similar with lacrosse is just, I mean, it's combo with soccer because it's on, you know, like so hockey, lacrosse, soccer have similarities, but a lot of it, the names of the positions, the arenas that they play in, the plays that they run, the screens, and all those other things, a lot of it's very, very, very similar to how basketball play calling and playmaking is made. It's just they don't really spend a lot of time catering the advertisement piece to broaden their audience.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They just don't market very well, or they just choose not to market. But like I talked to 6 or 7 different people just to kind of get some insight, you know, of like, hey, do you watch hockey? If you don't, why not? And when was the last time? So each person gave me some combination of when I'm watching it on TV, I can't keep up with the puck, you know, and I told them they don't.
That too.
Yeah, I told them they don't necessarily need to keep up with the puck. I know you want
Oh,
to, but if you're watching the people, you can figure it out. But the other thing was the other complaint was they just didn't really understand the rules, you know, like the hockey rules. Like so in football, you know, they know what offsides is, they know what a false start is, you know, they know what pass interference is, and everything else they could figure out, or they see it enough, they'll just figure it out. But when you're watching hockey, they're like, okay, icing, like they're playing on ice. What does that mean? You know, like, or like, you know what I mean? They're like, I just saw this dude hip check a dude into the glass, but then he hit him right here and he got a penalty, or like, you know, just whatever the case may be. So like, there was a lot of that where they just felt like it's hard for me to keep up with hockey because I'm watching it. I think I know what's going on, and then something just happens and I get lost. So from that standpoint, you know, and I think that hockey is just out of sight, out of mind. Like I said, they don't on Sports Center. You might see a play or two in the top 10. You know, if something remarkable happens.
and that's the thing. So many hockey plays are. If you ever been on skates with the puck and a stick in your hand, and you see, like, I can't dunk, but I've seen a guy in the Air Force dunk a basketball. I can't shoot threes, but I've shot jump shots and made threes. I've shot long threes and made them. I've made a dope bounce pass. I've done things on the ground level that an NBA highlight will look like. I don't know how many people have done with a stick and a puck what a hockey player can do.
And all that equipment.
With all that equipment, all
yeah.
the time, the speed, what they're able to do is so much of it should be prime plays. But I think what does it for me is that I had 2 of my sons play it, my friends play it. So my hockey memories are, and where I learned the rules is with watching my sons play, getting coached, learning, and watching my friends play, and then having subsequent conversations, and then watching other, because in Utah, like just like I said, we went north to the base, had the Ogden Mustangs. It was like an 18 to 20-year-old.
Yeah.
I used to go to those games. They had like $3 churros, $2 hot dogs, you know, so it was like, oh, this is an outing. And a lot of times I would get I would just end up with free tickets. I don't like. I knew a team mom from when my son played. She would always see me, and like she worked like promotions, so she would just give me like free entry tickets. So every time she saw me in one of the games, like, oh, did you use your ticket this time? I'm like, yeah. So like, I'll get you some more. She'd go talk to someone and bring me like 4 more. So I'd always have like these free entry tickets. I'm like, okay, boom. I'll spend like $30 on churros, soda, and hot dogs. She had me do the chicken wing eating contest one time. I'm walking out there. She's like, I need your help. I was
Way
like,
to enforce the stereotypes.
yo, she's like, we got chicken wing. No, was it ribs? It was ribs. So it's the same. It was a rib eating contest. So she's like, you gotta do it on the ice. I'm like, I got you. I want a t-shirt. Cause I crushed it. She had me just like two slim folks. I'm like, listen, go ahead, give me them ribs. But like I said, it's because it's like intrinsic, it's like interwoven into my like my family and friendship dynamic. That's why it's easy for me to like to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. If you then it's not a lot, and if you never been and try to watch it on TV, it's gonna be difficult because you know the rules. The rules
right.
are pretty.
I think so too.
If you are in an arena, I can point out what I know, and then what I don't know we can figure out. But like when you're sitting there, but on TV it's kind of hard because everything's moving. But during the game, all that movement is so exciting. Like the fans beating on the glass. I mean, this is like I said our last segment we weren't talking about like this is not a knock on Michael Jordan. This is an advertisement for people to go watch a hockey game. Go check it out. It's fun. You can get the same seats that you would spend. Like I looked at Sixers tickets about a week ago for the same seats for like $250 for a basketball game. They're like $60 or $85 for a hockey game. And it's a good view. You can see it anywhere. Bright white ice, so you can see the movement of the players. So no matter where you sit, you can see it.
And the kids love the Zambonis between periods.
Yeah,
they love the Zambonis. And playoff hockey is intense. It really is.
Much because they don't want to lose time on the ice, but it's aggressive, it's intense, it's fast.
Yeah.
Shout
so
out
last question,
hockey folks.
Yeah. So last question: Do you think hockey is hurt because there's not a lot of elite American players?
No, because I think they are a world sport and they get a lot of players from around the world. So if they're checking the meter, like it was the Nielsen rating to see who is watching your sport, there's so many guys in the NHL from so many parts of the world and a lot of guys from Canada. So I think they're all just, that's their sport. Like they don't really have, they're not as galvanized by every other sport as they are by hockey. So you have the entire country to the north in NHL with a couple of teams that are in Canada in NHL. And then you have the players from around the world who play in the NHL that drive your audience as well. So I think they feel like they have enough because they have like a soccer kind of expanded net of views throughout the world.
All right. Well, you know what? Time to get something off your chest, Raph. What do you have on your chest today?
I didn't really take any notes. This is gonna be kind of off the cuff. I'm gonna keep it a little shorter than I was last week. In our sports group, somebody posted a picture of Dwayne Wade's like it's Versace eyewear advertisement. And then it was like, yo, it's the comments for me. So then I opened up the comments and everyone was like, man, just come out of the closet already. Oh, he looks like his son, like father, like son. I'm just like, really, internet thumb thugs? Like, are you really being a homophobic about this man's family because you think it's funny, because you feel whatever way about homosexuality? That's not you. The way he lives his life, the way his family lives their life, yes, I get it. It's entertainment. It's kind of put in your face. But it's no need to take a picture and just be derogatory. I still understand why people can't find joy in stuff that they see. I watched Dwayne Wade play basketball for a lot of years. For a while, it was Kobe, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and my personal MVP, non-voting capacity. I enjoy the way he played basketball. Yes, he has his personal life and is out there for the media. His son's playing basketball. His now daughter and their gender identity journey. That's for his family, and I think for people to use it as this means to just kind of discredit him as a person and take shots at him. I think it's dismissive. I think it's rude. I think it's childish, and I don't understand why people go on the internet with your profile picture, where you're from, your family, your friends, and you make these comments on the random pictures. Like, what if somebody want to knock on your door? You'll be as tough as you were with your thumbs when you were sending that message? Probably not. So my whole thing is let people live their joy. Try to find some of your own joy. Don't pour gasoline on hatred. Don't pour gasoline on bigotry. Don't pour gasoline on homophobia. Try to find some joy. Look at the picture and be like, listen, pictures are cool. I'm not paying for them glasses. I know the price costs. A friend of mine left some Versace glasses in my car. I still ain't gave them back. You know what I'm saying? So I know they cost, but that doesn't mean I'm just sit here and take my time to be negative and use negative energy. You're above ground. You're breathing this oxygen. You're exhaling carbon dioxide. How about you have a little fun with it? Have a little joy instead of being negative about a guy taking pictures of his Versace glasses. That's why I gotta get off my chest.
It takes very minimal energy to keep scrolling, and it takes even less energy to mind your business. All right.
It's free.
So, we've used the word hypocrite a lot on this show.
It seemed to be our theme.
Yeah, and I'm about to be a hypocrite right here because, I told you all that I'm fine with the Memphis Grizzlies talking, even though they haven't done anything. Like we need these people in sports. We need a villain. We need a story, whatever the case may be. So talk. But, dear Ja Morant, you don't know me very well, but my name is Mike Wilson. I happen to be a fan of yours. I love watching you play. I love your game, and I see nothing but great things in your future. But I just want to say a few things to you from the bottom of my heart. You are not hated. Hate is one of those words like woke and overrated that just get overused. You are not being hated. If you don't want to be the villain, stop talking. So you aren't afraid of the Western Conference, but you should be. Because before I started this show today and I looked it up, I see that your record against Western Conference teams is 15-16. That includes 0-2 against Golden State, including one of the games that Wardell Stephen Curry did not play. You guys are the ones that are picking all the fights. So if anybody's spreading any hate, it's you. Maybe Shannon Sharp hates you, but most of us don't. You're not relevant enough to hate yet. If you want me to hate you, can you at least make a conference finals? But I still want you to talk, because just because you haven't won a title does not mean you don't get to have a voice. We just want y'all to back up all the BS that you're spouting. That's it. Just back it up. By winning games, not by hitting people, not by pointing lasers at people. Last check, you've lost 8 out of your 9 last games. I'm not telling you to shut up and dribble. I'm just saying, talk less, practice more. That's it. Stop worrying about what others think about you. Just think of the things that you need to work on yourself. Where's your heart? You should have never spoken. Never. You should have never said anything. Dylan shouldn't have said anything. Desmond damn sure shouldn't have said anything if you weren't prepared for pushback or for people to disagree with you. I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now if I cared about that. See, I welcome disagreement. I welcome pushback because opportunities to learn is opportunities to grow. And that's what you need to do. You need to grow. So if you can't handle whatever you think this hate is, I would hate to see how you react to getting booed in Denver in a game 7. Wear your feelings as a badge of honor. Be happy for the fact that you can get this reaction that you see out of people out of them. Even though you are not hated. Just my 25 cents. No. That's what I had to get off my chest. I love Ja Morant, but all this, we're the most hated team in the league. Like, boo-hoo. Like, you know what that means? You know what that means? That means people are watching you.
Everybody wants that. I read an article recently that it's like I don't want to use a phenomena. I think that's a bad word. But there's like a rash of people who post about poor things going on in their life.
Yeah.
Just so they can get like the endorphin hit from the reaction from people. Like saying, oh, poor you, poor you, poor you. And sometimes like I have Facebook friends and I'll read through and I'm like, post some joy. It's a lot of joy out there. My daughter learned how to do a little science experiment with like water and dry erase markers where like the ink floats off the plate. Joy. It was pure joy watching her learn that. And she did it for like an hour straight. Just sitting there, I was watching her on FaceTime. She just doing it over and over and over and over again. Just pure joy. No concern with anything else. It was just like pure joy. It's like you can have that if you choose to. But if you sit there and say something like, we're the most hated team in the NBA, no one hates you, man.
No one hates you. And if it's that bad, why don't you go 0 dark 30 like LeBron in the playoffs?
People want, like, because even LeBron said it, like, everything gets back to LeBron, but he said that year when he wanted to embrace the villain, he was like, that didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't work. We lost in 6 games anyway. He was like,
I love being a villain. Like,
he was like, he was like, I was better off just having a good time enjoying my year versus wanting to be the villain because it didn't work out. We ended up losing, then people all of them anyway. That's why he was like,
yeah.
Press conference, like, you got to go home to your life. I get to go home to mine, because he was embracing the ideology that didn't make any sense.
Right.
It's not natural for you to want to be just negative. Like, that's not how.
Right.
How you don't wake up with more negative thoughts. Baby.
Yeah. Like well, before we started doing this, my wife thought about doing a podcast, and I asked her. I said, "Can you handle what people may say to you on social media?" And she said, no. She said, how do you know you can handle it? And I said, you know why? Because hate is just a part of life, unfortunately. And not everybody's going to love you. But as long as you stay true to yourself, you just accept whatever comes with that. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be hated per se, but I can't control that. So it's a waste of time to think about it. So Ja Morant, I can tell you right now, the Lakers are probably the most hated team in the league. You know what I'm saying? And if you ask Mike Wilson, I don't hate nobody like I hate Boston. So like just in my personal record, it ain't you guys.
You don't think it's Golden State?
No, I think Steph and Clay are likable. Like I think a lot of people like them. Like even girls are watching more basketball because of them now. Like I went to the shop at this morning and they talking about like I'm from Georgia. I'm a Hawks fan, but I love me some Golden State. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody loves Golden State, man, except for me.
You don't think it's Brooklyn, Philly?
No, nobody hates Philly. Like we might hate Philly fans, you know what I mean? But nobody hates the Philly team.
Philly don't care.
I know Philly fans want to be hated, but I don't think I don't think people might hate the Eagles, you know what I mean, just because of the football fans and backstories about Michael Irvin and all that kind of stuff like that. But Nobody hates the 76ers.
So the Lakers, you got Lakers as most hated, huh?
Oh yeah, because LeBron just brings a certain something with him to begin with, and the Lakers have been the dominant franchise, for
Have they? No.
they have been.
That might be part of it. I know you're getting off your chest, and we keep going on and on and on. We're probably going to extend this a lot. Let's apologize if you ride with us for the next few years. Me and Mike will keep doing this. I think the Lakers were dominant. Like 2000 to 04.
Hey, they went to 9 finals. Magic Johnson went to 9 finals.
Oh yeah. That was also when the Celtics were in that same little bubble.
And they didn't go to 9.
But no,
because remember Boston. Remember after Boston played the Lakers a few times, they didn't make it. They didn't make it back to KG and them.
This is something we got to figure out later.
They didn't make it back for like 25 years.
The two players that played the national championship game both end up on two teams that they did subsequently use to galvanize all basketball fans and essentially change the way the NBA operated. I just want to know how that worked out. Because I know they say the draft isn't rigged, but how did Patrick Ewing get to the New York Knicks? I mean, these are all questions we can bring.
How did Cleveland get those picks after LeBron left? How did New Orleans get the number 1 pick?
Well, New Orleans wasn't supposed to get the number 1 pick.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Williams was supposed to be in New York, not New Orleans. They got the wrong new. I don't know if they put the wrong new in the computer and it just got confused, like Y2K. Remember Y2K? Remember the word about Y2K?
But that's why we have these questions, because it just don't. Because didn't Cleveland get it like?
It worked out for Cleveland. It worked out for San Antonio. It worked out for the Knicks.
If I remember correctly, Cleveland got it consecutive years after LeBron left.
Because they were awful. They were awful.
They got Anthony Bennett and Kyrie.
They got it 3 years. They got it 3 times in 4 years.
That's what I'm saying, and I ain't supposed to question that.
Well, LeBron wasn't leaving Miami. It wasn't like they were trying to make Cleveland better. The restaurants closed down in Cleveland.
No, they're not trying to make Cleveland better, but they just trying to.
1 year.
No, they were just like, yo, here's something for your troubles. We know Dan Gilbert going to mess it up anyway.
So I think, did it go Kyrie Bennett or Bennett Kyrie? I think it went Bennett Kyrie.
I think, yeah.
Because Bennett was a bust. Because, I hate to use that word, but Bennett didn't play well. So they used their number 1 pick on a guy who basically didn't impact the team at all. So then they got Kyrie because Kyrie came out of Duke. And then I don't know if they got Kyrie. Was Kyrie in his second year when LeBron came back, or his third?
No. I think it was his 3rd year.
Okay, so they got Kyrie. Then they had
because remember they had Dion Waiters too.
Then they had the bag year. Then they got number 1 pick again. LeBron came back. Wiggins goes to Minnesota.
And we didn't even get to Wiggins in the Pippen segment. Yeah.
We'll get to.
We'll circle back
for some later.
Yeah, but so like it's hard to not think this stuff is rigged when you just sit down and like look at it, like like when I'm playing NBA 2K, why my expansion team don't never get a top 3 pick?
I don't think anything is rigged because I think especially nowadays I think the incentive to tell and get paid is greater than whatever. If the NBA or NFL, anybody wants you to rig something, they're not going to pay if they want you to participate. I can't imagine that they would pay you more than some investigative reporter site like TMZ would pay you to tell the story.
Right.
So I think TMZ would pay you $1 million.
Oh, I think
if you're a referee and if you're a referee and you have like real information that says, I was told that in the 3rd and 4th quarter of these games to throw illegal contact penalties on alternating 3rd downs against this team.
I do think there was some BS afoot with New York getting Patrick Ewing. Like that was before TMZ, that was before camera phones. Like something was definitely afoot right there.
Watch the Tim Donaghy documentary on Netflix.
Watch it. And it will change your world, But with that being said, I guess it's time to get up out of here. This is always my least favorite moment of the show. So, I just want to let y'all know, once again, sports reports as ordered on Instagram, on YouTube, MLDub25 on Instagram, 2-Bit Reports on Twitter. Please rate us, review us, give us 5 stars, like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. Fear My Wrath over there, on Twitter.
You can tell us we're terrible and tell a bunch of people about us, and then maybe they'll watch us and they won't have the same opinion.
Yeah, tell me that you do hate Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. Tell me I was wrong about that. But yeah, it was a great time as always. This is my favorite part of the week. My least favorite part of the time is when we got to end it. So thank you, America. We will be back on Friday, late Friday night. You'll probably get it early Saturday morning. Super Bowl previews. Who's going to pick the Chiefs? We'll see who I pick. Spoiler alert, but we'll go from there. We'll hit you up Friday. We'll let y'all know what's going on in the world of sports. Shout out to LeBron James, hopefully going to break the record tonight.
We got headband LeBron. We got headband tonight.
Oh, man, it's on now. It's on now. Shout out to Red Bull. Shout out to my guys, Michael Smith.
3-point shot headband. We got that headband on tonight.
Shout out to Red Bull. Shout out to Michael Smith. Shout out to Michael Holly. America, we are signing off. Peace.
Once again, shout out to Dirty Geek Apparel for hooking me up. Once again, Fear My Wrath. We'll do this shot.
Yes, sir.
Listen, 2 vets, no gimmicks. It's one thing we learned in 20 plus years.
Yes.
Dog tags.
Peace.
Out.